and have some fun. We gonna do what you never done. Oh yeah, yeah. Come on, take your body
right,
with
y'all.
you. It's a money weekend. Everything we wanna, we go do. We go do. It's leisure, we go do.
Make sure I'm good. Okay. All right, I think I'm ready now. Ooh, that you just vibe with that, you know. Let me just pause for a second. Hold on now. I'm going on my shoulders. Come on now. All right. Let me cut that out. What's going on for another amazing episode of Is That So? What's going on, my people? What's going on, outliers? I am so grateful to be here today. I'm so grateful to be able to share this time with you. And I'm so grateful and humbled that you decided to share your time with me by listening to this. And I have another heavyweight on. This heavyweight goes by the name of Wenzel McGowen. So I left it down there for a long time. I left it down there at the beginning because I wanted y'all to figure out. There was like a pop quiz. You know, how do you pronounce this name? It is Wenzl. Oh, look, okay. I didn't know that was going on with the camera. Wenzel McGowen. Wenzl, not Denzel. Wenzel, without the E. Come on now, I like that. Something unique, something different. So my man Wenzel is a member and co-founder of the international touring band Moon Hooch. Moon Hooch, and the inventor of the Traffic Cone Saxophone. Yes, I have an inventor on here today, y'all. Look, I would love to, like if I was him, that would be like my first or second line of introduction. I don't even know if I would say my name. I think I would just start off with, "Hi, I'm the inventor of the Traffic Cone Saxophone, and my name is Wenzel." Like I think I would just start off dialogues like that. It would even matter where it is. Like I'm getting on a plane and the steward is like, "Hey, welcome to the flight. How are you feeling today?" "Hi, I'm the inventor of the Traffic Cone Saxophone, and my name is Wenzel." I love it. Anyway, so clearly we have someone who is used the brain cells in an appropriate way and did what creators do, which is create some stuff. So clearly there's some passion behind that too, because you don't invent something without passion. You don't create something new unless you stare at that thing long enough for it to collapse from the metaphysical, from the quantum field into this physical reality. You see, wherever attention goes, energy flows. You've heard me say that before, right? And so that's what we're doing whenever we're staring at this thing that has not been invented yet. But it's our passions that keep us staring at that thing, because faith is not belief in what you do see, which is nothing in the physical. It is the acceptance of the unseen. You have to accept that the vision that you have in your heart was put there on purpose, because you were born on purpose, for a purpose, with a purpose. Come on now. All right. Wenzl, in 2013, Wenzl had a spiritual awakening during a meditation retreat and has since written 2 books, which I'm going to allow him to talk about mystical experiences, meditation, and the science of personal growth. I got to read it dramatic like that as well. Oh, I wasn't supposed to put that at the bottom yet. I was going to introduce him. But I'm going to read this real quick. Both books draw from ancient teachings, direct experience, and modern science. He aims to free spirituality from dogma and provide a framework to integrate awakening experiences without religion and superstition. You definitely have some questions about that right there. So without further ado, I'm going to invite in my man, Wenzl.
Hey. Thanks for having me. You had me cracking up backstage. I think that was the best introduction ever.
Well, I appreciate it, brother. You know what I'm saying? I've been working on it, man. I just finished filming my 3rd season, so I've been doing some practice. And my people, my outliers out there, know that everything that we do is a practice, and whatever we practice, we become. So I've been practicing at this for a couple of years now. So now I'm getting the hang of it. So I appreciate you, man. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Just firing off. You know what I mean? Hey, in flow, man. In flow.
That's
But
right.
welcome, brother. Welcome so
Thank
much,
you for
man.
having me. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And so definitely I would love for you to introduce yourself to the people real quick. And I mentioned the fact that you had that you've written 2 books. And so if you could just talk about those 2 books, at least mention the name real quick.
Sure.
I would love that for the audience.
Yeah, so the first book I wrote is The End of Fear, which is a novel about a homeless man having a spiritual experience and not being able to deal with it, and basically going into fear and panic and paranoia and checking himself into a mental hospital. And there he deals with the question, is this a real experience? Am I going crazy, or do I follow these visions? And in the end, he follows his crazy visions, and it brings him into a realm of love and light and wisdom, and then he like struggles to integrate that into his everyday life.
Mhm.
The other book is basically just a bunch of research on spiritual experiences, mystical experiences, and different ways of making sense of them.
Mhm. Okay. Why would it benefit any of the listeners or viewers to purchase these books?
I think in today's society, it's really common that there's people that have spiritual experiences and don't know how to make sense of them. Some people are more fortunate and are born into a religion, and they feel safe to find God in whatever framework they're using, if it's Christianity or Hinduism or Islam or whatever. But a lot of people are also born into atheist families, and when they suddenly have spiritual experiences, it can be really terrifying because you have no framework.
Mm.
And that's what happened to me, and so I kind of feel the calling to speak about that topic.
So you say without religion or what was that at the end of that? Without
Dogmas,
superstition.
yeah.
So do you believe that religion and superstition to be synonymous?
No, I don't. But I think that we inherit a bunch of frameworks from the past of how our ancestors made sense of spirituality, of spiritual experiences. And I think that Jesus had an intense spiritual experience, awakening to the reality of God, to the kingdom of God. And then all his followers basically created frameworks to make sense of that, and then that got filtered through the Roman Empire, and what is left is a faint message of his experience.
Mm.
And I think that like he didn't have Christianity as a framework, he built his own framework. And I think that whatever framework we build in order to make sense of our experience is subordinate to the experience.
Mm.
It's after the experience. This is
Mm.
how we learn to explain our experience. And I think the real value is in cultivating the direct relationship to spirit. And the explaining and making sense isn't actually as important.
May
Okay?
I ask this then? Oh, I love this. So how was that different from what is religion to be understood? Like your understanding of religion?
Um, say again?
Well, yeah, let me ask that question a little bit better. Um, like the way you described that
Mm-hmm.
about a process basically that
Mm-hmm.
then leads you to this God experience. How
Mm-hmm.
was that any different from what religion is purely meant to be?
I think it isn't any different what it is meant to be. But
Mm.
I think how religion ends up is often very much in the head. People are thinking and arguing about this is true, this is not true. Dinosaurs are not real. They were placed here by God to test our faith. Evolution is not real. There's all this argument between science and religion, and that's missing the point.
Mhm.
I think the point is a relationship to God, and I don't think it matters what you name this God. You could. It's about the actual relationship, and that's not just an idea. It's not just an empty prayer, but it is a visceral feeling of a connection.
Mhm.
And that is where the real money is at. That's where the real gold is at.
Hmm. So you're not per se trying to remove people away from religion. Is that those who do not, who are without a religion or some form of processing or vehicle to their God experience, you're trying to pave a path for them.
Exactly. Yeah. I find that a lot of people that are born into atheist families and are total science freaks and science nerds get a panic attack when they start having spiritual experiences because they have nothing to hold on to. They can't make sense of it. They're not willing to jump into the arms of God, so to speak. Um, and I'm using the word God. I don't have to use that word. I can also call it the larger consciousness system, transpersonal identity, oneness of love, or whatever. Like
Yeah,
the
it's all semantics.
words don't matter. But we're born into such a logical society. Well, not that logical, but overthinking. There's a lot of thinking, and we think that we need to get safety by thinking things through. And so that's why I think when we don't have a framework, don't have a way to make sense of things, we can just spin off into paranoia and anxiety and miss the point of what the actual relationship is about.
Mm. So, you've had an experience,
Hmm.
and that experience. So, does this narrate? Is this vision that you painted for us? Is that symbolic of your own journey?
Yeah, totally. When
Okay.
I
Yeah, please.
when I first had my spiritual experience, I thought I was going crazy. There was no doubt in my mind that I was going crazy because in my worldview, there was no room for a higher power. I thought matter interacting with matter is giving rise to consciousness, is giving rise to human life. And suddenly I was having a direct connection to life beyond the physical dimension. That's maybe not the best way to describe it, but it was such a direct experience that this higher power just made itself known to me and started telling me about my eternal soul. And I was like, no eternal soul, that is crazy talk. I'm going crazy. And I gradually learned to listen to it and integrate that wisdom into my daily life and allow that love to flow through me. And in the last years, it has become like the most fulfilling thing ever because suddenly I have an anchor of love, of eternal love that has nothing to do with the circumstances of my life, but it is life itself. And yeah, so my books are more about cultivating a relationship with that. And
What is so? This is great, brother.
thank
I'm loving it.
you.
I'm loving it. So you right now, the reason why you're on this podcast, besides spreading the mission, is it that you're promoting these books?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So definitely, I have a couple of questions for you. Well, I have more than a couple of questions for you.
Yeah.
One, let's when you say cultivate a relationship with that, what is the that you cultivate a relationship with?
Another way of calling it is presence, because I think once we are fully present, once we're no longer thinking about what's going to happen next or what has happened, and if we feel just the things around us, feel our body, then we are coming into touch with life itself. And yeah, sorry, you want to say something?
No, I don't want to cut you off though. Keep on. You say coming into presence, and so
Yeah.
well, I say it now, but when you say presence, immediately I think about omnipresence, and so it sounds like it's not much different from the religious perspective of being presence. If you understand what presence is and being present, then you can understand that when you are present, you tap into the flow of life. And so in that
Mhm.
flow of life, you tap into the flow of what is God conscious. And so in that state, you are essentially in that, omnipresence.
Hmm.
Excuse me, omnipresence. And so it's like being present allows you to tap into the omnipresence that is God.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just want you to know, hey,
We're talking the same language. Yeah,
hey,
that's
yeah.
yeah. I love it. Today I was on a walk and I was starting to feel my feet touch the ground, and I started to notice how my mind would drift off into like, what am I gonna do? Or blah 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 blah. I'm like, nah, no, none of that. We're just here walking. And then I started to feel like this tingling sensation of bliss, of just gratitude that I'm here in this moment and that I'm having an experience with life together. Because the rest of nature is happening now. All of nature is happening now. Like even your pets, if you can't meet your pets in the past or the future, they're right here and they're super present and they want to play with you and they want to engage with you. And this is why we love having pets, I think, because they have no option other than being in the moment. And we have so many options. We could literally lose ourselves for 10 minutes and then be like, whoa, barely even notice that we have a body. And we're just dwelling over some future imaginary scenario of how our bosses at work, blah, 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 whatever. Or our ex-girlfriend, what they said and who said and what they think. That whole emotional stuff, it rips us out of nature. It rips us into imaginary scenarios.
And so the way that I conceptualize that is that the mind, the monkey mind, and so it has a tendency we get locked into the thinking mind, we get locked into the physical, and we forget that we are energetic beings having a human experience. We are energetic beings. Yeah. And so going back to understanding that energy that we are, and then understanding our existence through that lens, from, moving from the ego, which is designed to keep us safe in here and operate in the matrix of the physical world, but it is mortal. And so it keeps on thinking about things that represents its mortality because it fears death. But when you understand yourself from energetic level, now you're moving into spirit because that's what spirit is. And so from a spiritual place, you understand that energy can either be created or destroyed. And so operating from that space, you're just trying to be present with the current manifestation of energy that you are.
Yeah.
That's why it's important for you to know thyself, because ignorance and freedom cannot coexist. How can you move skillfully? How can you move authentically throughout this world if you do not understand how you manifest as an energetic being?
I love your musical flow. I almost hear like a beat behind what you're saying.
Is there? Because I can't hear myself. You know what I mean?
It's like perfect. You just like vibing, riffing on.
Come on, man.
Existential truths.
That's deep, yo. That is deep. Yo, that is.
I love it.
I'm gonna have to think about that later on, man. I might have to come up with something.
Do you ever put your stuff to beats?
No, but coincidentally, I have been downloading some beats as of lately, and I'm like, I'm gonna do something with these beats.
Yeah, dude, that'd be awesome.
I know I'm not gonna rap. I'm definitely not gonna be out here singing. but just talking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man, it's deep what you said. Like the ego has the fear of death and is so preoccupied preventing its own demise. While there's another part of us that has no interest in that because it's eternal. It has no care, no worry, because it knows it can't die. And this is something actually that came to me during my spiritual awakening experience, where I was suddenly having this discussion telepathically with some sort of wisdom source. I had no name for it, but I was basically bogging out, freaking out, while it was saying, why are you so worried? You're an eternal soul. None of this matters that much. You're just having an experience. You're like so worried about things that are not even real. And I think from the perspective of the soul, all of this is an illusion.
Hmm.
And from the perspective of the ego, it's very real and it's extremely dangerous. And, we could die any moment, we get hurt and blah, blah. While the soul is like, whatever. It's like an eternal existence has no concern for death and therefore has no fear.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We tap into that though. Whenever we move from the space of allowing our spirit to lead, the mind and the ego being the tool through
Hmm.
which we operate through, but it not being the vanguard. It's like
Right.
until you understand, until you have that experience, your ego will be the captain of your ship. And so then it's going to be concerned with what it concerns itself for, which is avoiding pain and seeking out pleasure. And so it's looking at it's what it don't want to experience and the
Hmm.
fears, still operating from the hunter and gathering mind that always worried about death, because in the hunting and cave that period, caveman, cave woman,
Hmm.
Flintstone period, all we thought about was, okay, I don't want to walk outside and get my head bitten off by a flying bird, or die from a dinosaur, or get sick because there's no pharmacies out here, or get tired, or not eat and then starve.
Hmm.
So all of those don't wants, because we were just so locked in that state of survival for so long. Even now, our brain, our mind has to be updated. The software has to be updated. That's when these meditation and transcendental practices come into play, because it allows you to move from your ego, from this fight or flight state
Hmm.
where you're constantly staring at your fears and what you don't want and pouring energy into that, and then move up towards what it is that truly represents your truth, and then moving in that truth. And as you collect more truth, again, ignorance and freedom can't coexist. As you collect more truth, what happens is you begin to shine brighter, because you're become more and more lit as you live in truth,
Hmm.
lit, which is why I say stay lit, because the more truth, the more personal truths that you gather, the more lit you become, because the more empowered you become, because
Hmm.
now you have a clear sense of self. But when you
Yeah.
don't, when you're wavering, when you're straddling the fence on that, then you can fall for any old thing that the ego says is you. And
Yeah.
literally whatever it stares at, it says, it begins to bind and attach itself to, and says that it is you. So if you keep staring at those negative comments that other people tell you,
Yeah.
eventually your ego will tell you that that is you. Matter of
Hmm.
fact, they don't even you need to stare at it, because it's already telling you that to keep you scared and in the closet. But I'm gonna stop for a second. Go ahead on, brother. Talk to us.
I like what you said about cultivating living in truth. That is something I think about a lot, um, because I think when we have pain, when we have trauma, we don't like truth because we don't want to feel that pain and that trauma. So we rather hide it and then either blame other people for it, blame circumstances for it, or just shut a part of us off so we don't have to feel that anymore. And I think it is courageous to live in truth, because it means that you're taking accountability for all that you are. And that also means taking accountability for all the pain we've been through. And that is sometimes very hard, like especially in the beginning of the journey, right? That there's we are taught so many coping mechanisms that aren't good for us, like taking drugs to numb ourselves, having volatile relationships to distract ourselves, or whatever the coping mechanism is. And I think once we decide, like, no more of that, I'm actually going to face myself in truth, then like I remember, like, I quit all substances last year, and I was noticing how much I was using alcohol to numb myself and to not like feel what's actually going on. And then I had spent a lot of time just really just sitting with pain, like raw pain. and it would just attach itself onto some subject. This girl I met last night or whatever, like she might abandon me or whatever story it would create. And I would be like, no, this has nothing to do with any of this. This is my pain, and I'm not attaching it to anything. And I would go every morning into the sauna and just sit there like with pain and just breathe through it. And then thoughts would come in that'd be like, oh, stop this path. You can pick up another drink. Why are you doing this to yourself? Like, this never ends. The ego just trying to find all sort of reasons why I shouldn't face myself honestly. But I just kept facing myself honestly and writing letters to myself, just like, writing out the pain. And after a couple of months, that pain went away or got much, much less. Where I was like, okay, now I'm just sober and I'm feeling a lot better, and I'm having much less resistance.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an interesting journey to kind of take control of my alcohol abuse and face myself in truth.
How does one face themselves in truth?
I think it's a decision. I think you decide, I want to face myself in truth, and then life brings to you all what you need. I think the universe actually is a collaborator of your growth. Like, as soon as you make a decision, you can say it out loud or write it down or think about it. If you decide something, that will start reverberating in your experiential reality. So I think if you have the intention to face yourself in truth, life will bring to you mirrors in which you can look yourself and be like, oh, I haven't seen myself like this, and that's uncomfortable, and I don't want to see myself like this. That's usually the growth process for me. It's usually when I'm getting a mirror that I haven't seen, like when a blind spot is revealed to myself, it's not comfortable at all. And all of me wants to run away from it and be like, no, I'm not looking at that. I'm not accepting that part of myself.
Is that so? Go ahead. I'm listening.
I'm just ranting. But the point, you go.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick, what you're talking about is facing shadows.
Yeah.
Until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. And so it's about facing those parts of you that you haven't processed fully because you didn't
Yeah.
understand it. And so your mind coded it with the parasite of shame and guilt. And so that makes us feel repulsed to look at it. And so essentially what you have to do is face the lie that you've accepted about yourself in order to be freed into your truth, liberated into your truth. Again,
Mhm.
whenever you face your fears, then you enter into your kingdom of liberation and freedom. Your
Mhm.
fears have no idea how strong you are. Freedom exists on the other side of your fears, And so, what is
Mhm.
fears? False evidence appearing real. What do we know of when we think of anything in this physical place that is evidence of that? We would have to think about the mirage. Again, y'all know that my principles or my belief is the physical is a manifestation of spiritual truth. So what I know about a mirage is the further I move away from a mirage, the stronger it becomes. If I'm in a desert and I see a Coca-Cola machine, the
Mhm.
more I move away from that, the stronger it becomes. My mind is playing tricks with me. But when I run towards that Coca-Cola machine, that is that mirage, at the closer I get to it, the more it dissipates. And when I get close enough, it completely dissipates. And so that's the truth. When you come down here, you have to understand that you've not only come down here to understand who you are based off of what represents who you are based off of your truths, but also nothing exists in isness without its opposite. And so you've also come here to experience who you are based off of who you are not. And the quicker that you accept that, when you look at who you are not that thing, and accept that with radical acceptance and self-compassion, then you can move more efficiently and authentically and more in alignment with who you are. And then you become more and more lit. That's the liberating part, is that this thing that you fear is not even you anyway. That's why it doesn't feel good. You know what's you. Whenever you feel something good or that represents who you are, you move towards it. That's why we end up making friends with people who have similar tastes to us, and we end up dating and marrying people who have similarities to us, because it represents a reflection of who we are, our truth. And truth, the other, is no more. Is really here to teach you that you are no more than a reflection of them, and that they are no more than a reflection of you. And so you're looking at yourself anyway. And so when you see these things, these so-called idols that you look up to, the reason why it becomes an idol is because you're forgetting, you're projecting your greatness onto something else because you said that this thing is too great for me. All you're doing is looking at your own reflection. You wouldn't be able to see it if it wasn't true for you. That's the truth that you refuse to accept. It's not our darkness that we fear, it is our light.
Damn, I feel like you just said so much. Let me just wrap my head around it. I love what you said. False evidence appearing real is fear.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That is such a cool little. Yeah, that's so true. That's really what fears are. It's like, since I've been going through this process, sometimes friends of mine tell me that one of their friends went to the mental hospital. I'm not like a licensed therapist or anything, but I've just dealt with that fight, that existential fight. And so I can relate to people that go through it and can kind of hold their hand and be like, this is not something new. Like this is the existential fight when you start to have glimpses of your spiritual truth. And at the same time, the ego doubles down because the ego is like, oh no, now I'm losing control. If this person realizes who they really are, I'm out of business. And so I feel like often that happens when people have spiritual awakenings, their ego is like gets all fired up to.
And why is it that the ego is oftentimes taking this oppositional stance towards your authentic self? Why do you think that is, sir?
I have a theory. I mean, you probably won't agree with me, but I'm just gonna say it anyway.
You can project that out there, man. You don't know what I'm gonna. Go ahead.
Okay. I don't know, but I think that actually, like the division of good and evil that was like enforced in the last thousands of years has created a scar that the ego feels like it is evil if you identify with yourself, with your true self, with your love, and the ego, like all its selfish tendencies, feel excluded, feel like they're gonna go to hell and they're not gonna go into the light. And so for me, I've battled my ego in that way for a long time, where I was like, once I had an awakening experience, I wanted to just go into that spiritual reality and merge with God and be that and never again have an ego. And that made my ego stronger because it made my ego feel excluded. So I feel like this whole idea of good and evil is not a very beneficial approach. I think that it's much better to think about consciousness as a fragmented bundle of jewels, and they're all different sizes and different colors, and they're all totally unique. And what you're trying to do is to piece them back together into the original source where they came from. And I think that everything has a place. And I really like Vajrayana Buddhism in this framework, because Vajrayana Buddhism basically, it says there is no good and there is no evil. There is misguided and aggressive and lost spirits, but that's not bad. This is their choice, and we invite them to become guardians of the Buddha, of the light, of the love, and basically invite them and even give them offerings and food offerings. Vajrayana Buddhism has this like elaborate ceremonies in which they invite these spirits. So I find that an interesting idea, to kind of invite everything to unite into the purpose of serving God.
Oh, you sounding a little bit religious now. But I hear your framework. I hear your theory, and I wouldn't say that as much as a disagreement as much as it is just on a different calibration of what you said, which is that we ego comes and does what it naturally does, which is wonder about things and want to experience things and gives us the opportunity to experience life. But then we come into here alien beings. And as alien beings born tabula rasa or empty slate, we are dependent on people, these other, humans and other alien beings to teach us the way. And then as we are authentically expressing ourselves, we learn that this matrix has rules, and
Mm-hmm.
so we hear things like, don't do that, or stop being so loud, or speak up, or pull your pants up, or you need to be seen and not heard, or why don't you just shut up, or you don't need to be over here in our business, or you're not smart enough, or you're not, cute enough, or you're not slim enough, or you're just not enough of the good material. Your family isn't good enough. Your skin color isn't good enough. Who you love because of what you love and who you love, you're not good enough. And so we get all of these messages of not enough or unworthiness that sends us spiraling, fractured into the trance of unworthiness.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that that becomes the fight. The fight
Yeah.
is to recover ourselves, to integrate or reintegrate, or to
Yeah.
where we become dismembered, to remember who
Yeah.
we truly are
Mm-hmm.
and shed off those fear rooted inherited beliefs about who we are, limiting beliefs about who we are, and return back to love and return back to what is truly inherent to us, ergo a return to love. And so the
Yeah.
process is very much in alignment with what I believe is very much in alignment with the treatment modality of like internal family systems and other treatment modalities, where they talk about, this is where shadow work is actually, this is the reason why I talk about shadows, because we all have a shadow. Jung says that the pendulum of consciousness swings not between right and wrong, but between sense and nonsense. And so there are things that we don't understand, and those things we call evil.
Mm-hmm.
I believe this goes back to what you were saying when you
Yeah.
begin to talk about Buddhism. But
Mm-hmm.
we these things we don't understand. We
Yeah.
project that fear onto that which we don't understand, and so then it is a natural state of the ego to attack, because it's naturally xenophobic, to attack that which it does not understand.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why they did Galileo the way they did Galileo, just for saying that he
Yeah.
believed the earth was round. You see the truth. That's unfamiliar. I don't understand that. That's and I accepted that the world was flat. Like, don't you come up here and shake up my schema, And
Mm-hmm.
that's the one of the greatest fears that the ego has,
Mm-hmm.
that it does not know, or what it
Yeah.
does know is not the
Exactly.
truth.
Exactly.
Because what is real then? What
Yeah.
is real? Anyway,
Yeah,
please
man.
jump on in here, brother. I mean, what do you think about that? I mean,
I think
my
it's right on. It's right on. It made me also think about kind of how evil is goodness, which is misunderstood and doesn't know itself,
mm,
and then digs itself deeper and deeper into misunderstanding, fear, aggression, violence,
mm,
and because of that, the reflection it gets back is more fear, more violence, more aggression, and then it's a feedback loop of misunderstanding, which drills into the depths of hell.
mm,
And I think that there is nothing though that can be lost forever. Like,
mm,
if I think even if there was a thing such as Satan, I think Satan is a fallen angel, right?
mm,
And I think that angel in Satan is also real.
mm,
And that angel can stand up and be like, wow, I lost myself so severely, and start growing towards God again, which is unity consciousness, love. And
redemption.
yeah, so I just don't believe in this thing of absolute sin where you like absolutely you're done forever. Like you have no more chance. I think that's something that entered Christianity much later.
Hmm.
And
Well, it entered a um a wing of it, because when we talk about words, again, words are fluid. There's no way to trap God in words. I mean, even the fact of if we go just with the Judeo-Christian Bible, Bible, as was taught to me, it represents basic instructions before leaving Earth. It's basic, very basic. It doesn't contain the whole thing, which when you're talking about that experience that you have, and that's where, you know, you in a personal relationship is extremely important, because it's in that personal relationship that spirit then leads you, because what you
Yeah.
have before you is words, and words is the most limiting form of energy.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about omnipresence and omnipotent, you know, when you talk about these types of things, when you talk about God conscience, you can't contain that into mere words.
Yeah.
You really do have that through experience. And it really, that
Yeah.
experience looks like you experiencing yourself.
Yeah.
You finding yourself. The longest distance
Yeah.
you'll ever travel is the distance between your head, from your head to your heart. It's you traveling from this down to here,
Yeah.
and really rediscovering or remembering your truth. Brother, talk to us. I know that you don't have much time, so please
Yeah.
let us, you know, anything else you want to leave us with, anything you want to
Yeah.
talk about.
I love what you're saying. I feel it. I feel it. It's
When you're talking
that
to an
is,
outlier, baby, you're talking to an outlier.
yeah, man.
But no, please, man, I'm messing. Go ahead.
No, it's right on. It's like going into the heart means also becoming present, and also giving up the idea that we can know it all. Because when we think we can know it all, we can justify our thoughts endlessly. And we create all this separation between us and others that think differently, and others that we think are bad, and all that. If we're in our heart, none of that exists, because we're just present with whoever comes into our reality. And we no longer wrap them into our preconceived ideas and label them and put them into boxes of what they mean. I think relating to someone, if you really want to relate with them, you have to drop all that and go into your heart and feel them in the moment, and also know that whoever we're talking to is a universe of uniqueness. Like, really, like, everyone is born into such a different life and has had perhaps many different lives before that, and who knows what their spirit been through. And everyone carries these unique jewels. And what we are taught to do is say, oh, this is that person, they are this race, and they do this, and they think that, and therefore I don't want to talk to them. Or we close so many doors because of our head. If we go into our heart, we really can tap into that state of feeling the gratitude and the respect for people, and giving them that, what they really deserve as a unique creator on this planet.
And brother, that's a great place to leave off. You know, hey, you know, it's definitely been a pleasure having you on this show, and I just want to just come behind you and support what you just said, by saying that y'all know my mission statement is to assist others in developing the audacity to live unapologetically authentic. Authenticity requires you to be your unique self, which would not fit into what is considered the norm, the common. But this is why I created the School of Outliers, because in truth, it's not a matter of becoming an outlier, like my website says. It's a matter of acknowledging that you were born an outlier, and then
Mhm.
embracing that. So the becoming that I'm talking about, actually, when I put up the website, Become an Outlier, is a returning to love, or returning to self, or returning to self-love, returning to self-reflection, and a deeper understanding of who you are. Because no matter where you start at, we're talking about frameworks here. But
Yeah.
I've spoken to people who are Buddhists, people who are of the Muslim faith, people who are Hindu, of all different faiths, and for those who are truly like believers, we don't sound any different. You would not be able
Yeah,
to tell the difference between us,
exactly. Exactly.
you know, and that's because you true when you truly have that experience, you're tapping into God conscious. And so then that's why they say real recognize real. Let me tell you, most of the people that say that don't even understand what that phrase mean. But until you have certain experiences, you can't even articulate, you can't even, like, people know whether you have people that have had that experience. They know whether you have had that experience based off of how you talk and how you operate and how how you process and things. And so my brother here, I know I could see from his facial expressions, a lot of light bulbs went off, because even though I was saying it in a different way, I'm describing the experience that he was having. The God conscious,
Yeah.
connecting, truly coming back home. So anyway, I'm gonna say, lastly, I just appreciate y'all so much, and brother, thank you for being on this show. I appreciate you taking time to let us know about your journey, man. And again, the website is right there. Wenzel McGowen, y'all, the creator. We didn't even talk about the Traffic Cone Saxophone, but the man invented the Traffic Cone Saxophone, which is an electronic band, the Moon Hooch.
Well, my band is Moon Hooch, and a Traffic Cone Saxophone is a device. It would basically fit a traffic cone into our saxophones, and it's become a viral sensation. I was in America's Got Talent with it, and there's millions of views on the videos, and people are copying it all over the world. So it's just something I like to throw in there, because it's probably the thing I did that got the most international recognition. And it's such a fucking weird thing, and it's hilarious. So I just kind of included it in my bio.
Wenzel McGowen, America's Got Talent, man. Come on, man. I'm gonna have to look that up as soon as we get off here. Come on now, y'all. Wenzel McGowen, he has blessed the stage. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. Thank you for doing what you do. I know it helps a lot of people, and I love that you're such a powerful, grounded, and beautiful manifestation of the masculine. We need more of that.
Of the masculine, you heard that? Of the masculine, y'all.
No, it's true, because like a lot of people are like, they're dissing the masculine because they don't know what it means to be a healthy man. And so it's important that men don't disappear from this planet, but rather show themselves as their authentic selves, and not as the toxic masculine that is all ego consumed, but the masculine that brings power into the heart and into serving love.
I know you ain't mean to flatter me, brother, but let me tell you something. Flattery will get you everywhere with me. Thank you so much, Mr. Wendell.
Take care, man. Good
all right, y'all. We are out of here. Appreciate y'all so much. Mad love and respect. That was Wenzel McGowen, y'all, who blessed the stage. And I appreciate y'all so much. All right, I'm out.